Hi everyone. So hope you all are keeping well. So speaker for today's Tech Talk session is Crishantha Nanayakkara. He will be speaking on AWS cross-account access. So over to Krishant.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Kiruna. Actually, today I thought of doing this topic mainly due to several reasons. Actually, this is a session related to AWS. Probably the audience may not know the concepts, or probably some know the concepts. I tried my best to, bridge the gap actually, the half an hour session. So what I do is I'll just recap few things. You're a beginner, and I hope you will get the concepts. Then I'll jump into the detailed stuff. This is not a beginner session. This is intermediate level 200. And what I thought of starting this AWS sessions is mainly because we are a cloud-related company and we need to build our competencies towards AWS and all the other cloud vendors. And planning to do sessions periodically in the future as well. So since we have done predominantly a lot of AWS projects, I think thought of doing this topic mainly if you take any AWS course, training course rather. First session is on IAM actually, it's Identity Access Management, because it's even to start anything, you need to register and log into the system. So they start usually using IAM, and this topic is also related to IAM, but not at the beginner level, at the intermediate level, right? If you want to do associate level course certification rather, I don't think cross-account access will be there too much. It's probably at the professional level, and it's because you don't find this day to day, but if you're doing a bit of a complex system, I think you might come across this. Especially like, for example, if you take a huge organization, probably will have multiple AWS accounts, right? So such situations, you need to know how you handle those multiple accounts. Even at 1 billion tech, we have an account and we have multiple sub accounts as well. And certain projects have multiple accounts as well. So it's if you are a sort of a AWS admin or whoever uses the infrastructure, I think it's important to understand certain concepts very well, because then only you handle things properly. Otherwise, security-wise, it may not be too great. For example, if you handle everything in the root account, that's not the right thing to do. If you need to handle it through a certain way, it may not be. Then basically, because if you most of the time when you're learning AWS, you always do everything in the root or probably an admin account. Doing an admin account is fine, but if you're doing everything in the root account, it's anti-pattern. So those simple things are there, but if you're having a multiple account setup, it's getting a bit worse than that, because we need to handle things very well. Okay? For example, like certain departments have users, other department may not have users. So if you validate from other accounts to this account, probably certain people will need access from one department to the other department. That is called cross account. Like probably finance department might need access to some other department, or probably vice versa. HR department might need access to finance department. Certain individuals, probably sometimes auditors come. They're outsiders, right? How do you give access to auditors? Those questions are there. If you're an auditor, right, you can create an account and give in your organization, in your department. That's not right, because probably if you're giving in, you might give full access to him to access everything, which is not right. So those actually, you have to know when you're building complex AWS systems, probably you'll come across separate domains, separate departments, and all that. So you should be able to, as the person who governs the AWS infrastructure, you should be able to govern the whole infrastructure, not at the department level, at the whole holistic way, right? So basically, these are the things I'm going to cover. There are a few demos also lined up, but depending on the time, I'll do it. As I said, it's not a beginner's session, it's an intermediate session. So I'll do a small recap about IAM, what AWS offer. And then I'll go into the other topics like cross-account access, organizations, and service control policies. And as a small demo, and cross-account role switching. And finally, a new feature called resource access management. These all coming under the umbrella of cross-account access. And we'll see how things goes, right? So as I said in my this slide, you can see there's a recap, right? So I'm going to recap a few things about IAM, right? If you take IAM is Identity Access Management. If you're AWS or any other cloud person, you know what I'm talking about. If you take any cloud vendor, you have Identity Access Management. That's where you store your users, how you register, how you go, basically how you get access, right? If you take AWS, the maximum number of users any account will have is 5,000. right? If it goes beyond that, you need to federate the users. That's the limit. It's not a soft limit, it's a hard limit. You can't change that. So usually any company, small and medium, will not have 5,000, but if your company is more than 5,000, you'll have to federate. Okay, that's a different topic which I'm not going to cover. So that's the thing. I mean, if you usually any course, in any AWS course or any certification, is they start with IAM, because to do anything, you need to get registered to the system, right? So that's how you start. Once you create an account in AWS, the first account that you get the root account, that which you are the boss in that account, right? So what they say is you can have the root account, but don't use the root account too much, because having a knife is not so great, because it can be used for good or bad, right? So they advise you to, use an admin account rather than the root account and do the other work, right? And you probably might ask what's the difference between root and admin. It's not much of a difference, but root is having everything under the sun for that account. But admin, it may not have. I'll show you a few things, right? So first thing is you create an account in AWS, and which is a root account. The next step should be to create an admin account who can have one or more admins, right? So that is it. And when it comes to IAM, there are things credentials. Credentials usually when any system, right? Any systems will have way of authenticating yourself. So username password is a very popular one. And in AWS, there are three: username and password, access key, and security token service, right? If you are not 200% familiar with AWS, fine. Just remember there are three ways: username and password. Access key is something like once you get registered, you get a set of access keys to access. It's again a long-term access key. Basically you are using access keys when you are using CLI, which is a command line. You are using username and password if you are using console, which is your web interface. But if you are using command line, you can use access keys, right? Or when you communicate with one instance to the other instance, you can use within the instance, you can use access keys. Basically, both username and passwords and the access keys are long-term access. And long-term access means you keep that credentials for a long time, unless you change it frequently. The best practice is to change frequently, but if you don't change, it's there. That's why it's called long-term access. But security token service, which is called the short-term access, which is basically heavily used in IAM roles actually. Which means you get something like JWT token in your programming. It's something like similar to something like STS, which is basically heavily used in federation, right? You get a temporary short token, which basically heavily. Now, for example, if you're using IAM roles, it means within that IAM role thing, you find STS. You may not see it, but that's underneath it's happening. So if you're using IAM role, means you're using STS, right? So those are the main three credential types in AWS, right? And the policies. So probably if you know about identity and access management, there are things called policies. Policies where you give permissions, right? And for example, if you want to access EC2, you have to give the permission to EC2. If you want access to S3, you have to give permission for that. That's where you give access. For example, to authenticate, you authorize. The authorization happens through permissions, right? That is there the policies come to play. Any system, not only AWS, you take Azure, Google, or whatever it is, you find policies. And even that same here in AWS, you have to give permissions, you get policies, right? Basically, there are two types of policies in IAM: identity-based policies and resource-based policies. So identity-based policies means if you are a user, it's based on your credentials, you do certain policies. If you're otherwise, you can restrict certain things using based on your resource, which is, for example, for S3, you can restrict S3 for certain principals, users, or anyone, right? And so there are two types, right? We don't want to go into theory, but I'm just giving a recap, right? And so out of these two, in identity policies, you find AWS managed policies and inland users policies, right? AWS managed policies, there are a set of policies given by AWS, right? You don't have to do that. It's already there. You can use that. But if you find there are certain custom policies you have developed by yourself, those are called inline user policies, right? If you are doing the certification, I think you need to understand these stuff pretty well, especially the associate level, you find these stuff. So you need, anyway, if you're planning to do a certification, you need to understand this pretty well. But It's not the time to do that, but I'm just going to recap all that, right? So I talked about credentials, I talked about policies. The other thing called identity. Identity is how people who are interacting, people who are entities. Now, there are three actually: users, groups, and roles. Users are basically, if you're registered, you're a user, right? Groups are actually collection of roles. Collection of policies for a particular user, right? User group, right? You create a group. It's actually a very it's a very subjective group, which basically can have multiple users, and you add certain policies for that group, right? For example, myself and somebody need to be in the admin group, so we create an admin group. We add both together to admin group. You assign policies to the admin group, so both will get a set of permissions. That's what for groups. Role side, that's basically having connections to the resources plus accounts plus federations. You can have attached policies to AWS resources. You can attach policies to external accounts. You can attach policies to federated identities. Those are the main three which you find. So those are the subtle differences, but all are called identities, right? We need to understand the difference, because otherwise, if you go through IAM, you get a bit confused when you're writing policies, because it's having a JSON. Basically, you reading the JSON might not understand certain things, but you need to grasp certain concepts pretty well. At the beginning, it's what's the difference between group and role and stuff, right? But this is not the session to do that, but I'm just going to recap. Each of these identities can be associated with one or more policies, right? To determine what actions a user, group, or role can take, right? And this is what I already talked actually. What's the difference between users and group? In each AWS account, you find a root user, right? The root account is a super admin with full access to the account. Under the root account, you can create many user accounts, right? And I'll show you this when I do the practical part. It's recommended to create a separate admin. I told you about this. Don't depend on the root. You create admin always with an admin role to manage your account rather than using the root account. So it's actually, when you are creating an account, if you happen to activate any of these security tools in the AWS, you'll be getting a notification saying, okay, you have logged in to the account with the root. It means it's not a best practice. So when systems within the AWS alerting you, they're saying your root has logged into the system, means they're alerting somebody is not doing the right thing. So please don't do that. Even I do it sometimes, but it's not the right thing to do, right? Groups can contain many IAM users, and users can be in many IAM groups. Those are theories. I don't want to go into detail, but you can read them, right? These are important things. So I came to this place because since this is a bit of an intermediate level session, I just want to recap certain things that you can grasp quickly. And but I want to get to this slide because the roles are very important, right? As I said, what the role is it's under the roles you find STS, right? STS means Secure Token Service. Once you create a role, it means you are creating a short token service to the other resource that you want to access. Now, if you can use roles. I said there are three types of credentials: username and password, secure access tokens, and the third one is called short STS. STS actually you don't have username and password, so any access keys you create a role for the particular resource that you want to access. If you have the role, you can access, right? So actually by doing that, you get a temporary token. It's not a permanent token. You don't see that token, but it's underneath, it's happening. This is what this diagram says, right? You want to access certain resources in somewhere, but first you go through the cycle, go to the role, it invokes STS, and there's a temporary token given to you. Using that token, you access. But this is for a short time, right? And every role has two components: trust policy and a permission policy. You don't use trust policy unless you assume it, but permission policy is always there. Trust policy is called, this defines which identity can assume the role. I'll come to that later. So remember there are two types, right? Trust policy and permission policy. Trust policy we can set on the left side, you find the trust policy. On the right side, you find the permission policy. If you look at the left side, you can see there's a thing called STS assume role. So when you trust a system, so for example, I'll show you that in practice. And when you want to log into a different account, right? You don't need to authenticate yourself. You just apply a role, you can just log in. Right? That is, for that you need to give these permissions. Otherwise, and the permissions and from the principals you get. For example, you are accessing B account from A. So B account, you have to create this role and you have to give, okay, this, you are allowing this to be done only for this account. Or you can give it to all accounts, but usually for this account. So that is called assume role. You can assume particular entity, particular principal rather. The right side is typical permissions you can give, you can mention resources and you can do. So that's the difference. Assume role is using STS. Assume role is called trust policy. The right side is called permission policy. I don't want to go into detail. This is a different topic, but we need to understand what the role can do, right? And today's session is all about multi-account access, right? And when you are usually when you are working with AWS, you are working with a single account. Very especially for us, like we are mostly doing with products, right? Products. When you are doing products, you are basically confined to a single account. But when in the practice, in a typical client environment, for example, large organizations, you have multiple AWS accounts. As I said initially, you need to be able to sometimes you create users in one account and probably will be able to access the other account without creating that same user in the other account. The duplication of accounts is not the right way of doing it. You always, for example, if I'm working in the finance department, I'm a finance person. If you are working at HR department, you are HR person. You can't be a user in the finance, you can't be using HR. Your entity your user credentials in one domain actually. That's why you need the cross-account access. Otherwise, you can create another account in another one, you do whatever you want, but it's a duplication of data and you can't manage, you can't govern the infrastructure. Understand what I'm saying? I guess you will. That's what the diagram says. If you want to move across multiple accounts, you should be able to do it. Not on AWS, any cloud vendor will do that, right? In AWS, how we doing this, that's I'm going to show. It's all based on roles actually, right? You create a role, different account, that's you are done, right? Just want to show that that's what my focus is in this session. And this is the diagram. So if you look at the diagram, you can see there are multiple accounts down. For each one, you can access up and down, right? And this actually diagram shows, okay, there's a S3 account in different account, three accounts are trying to access the S3 bucket in a different account. You should be able to do that, right? Not only within your account, and outside accounts, right? And so when you talk about all this, there's a thing called AWS Organizations, right? It's again a different topic altogether. It's a bit of a complex topic. I'm not going to cover too much, but I'm going to go through a bit because it's very much important to understand what an organization is, right? And I'll just go to one of my accounts, right? This is actually my personal account. Actually, it's not a company account. And here I can see Crishantha at some IP, some account ID, and this is my super admin account. I have not logged into root account. This is my admin account, right? So usually what they say is, if you want to manage organizations, the ideal position you have to be in this root account, because as I said, sometimes the root and admin it has more or less the same access privileges, but certain things only root can do, right? If you go to AWS Organization, you can see you can still, even the root and organization you can access. But if you go to member account, which is an account which is created download, you are not able to access, right? So this is called AWS Organization, right? And they are like, in my account, I have a few dummy accounts and I have a few other accounts. So whatever account you add here, for example, you can invite an account, you can create an account, right? If you invite an account means you invite an external account, which is totally not within your organization. But if you want to create an account within your organization, you have to create the right tab, right? So that you can create, and here I'm not going to create one, and you can create one. Once you create one, actually, if you look at these stuff, then all these four are created. One is an external one, other three are created within this account, right? So probably you may not have email accounts to create. You can create aliases and put, right? That's not a problem. And just to show you what's organized, once you create an account, you are the owner of the organization, because organization is actually hierarchy. I'll go back to my slide deck. If you look at this diagram, and on top you find root account, right? Under that you find organization units, forget about the organization. Under that, you find thing called member account, right? Member account is something what you create within the organization account. For example, if you are the super admin, you log in as a super admin, you create accounts. These member accounts also AWS accounts. They also have their own IDs, right? So some of these member accounts can be grouped. Those are called organization units, right? And once you, so this is the structure, So when you do the cross-account access, you need to understand this concept pretty well, because sometimes probably to do a cross-account access, you need to understand this hierarchy in organization, because usually it's a top-down hierarchy. You basically, the root account has the all access. And the what you must be wondering, what's the difference between a member account and a master account. Master account is same as the root account. When you create an organization within the root account, this master account is going to be created automatically. It happens. For example, when you purchase an AWS account, you don't get the master account. So you have to create an organization. When you create an organization, you get the master account, right? So once you get the master account, if you go back to my other slide, so the star is my master account. I have not created this, it's automatically got created. When you create the organization, it's automatically created. That is called master account. Other accounts are called member accounts, right? And that is the same hierarchy you find here. And at each level, there's a thing called service control policy, right? This is not a policy that you find in IAM. This is a different policy, but syntax is same, but the different policy mechanism, right? Once you create the master account, you have the full access. But if you create the member account, again, you have the full access, but you can limit it, right? By default, when you create a member account, you give the full access to that member account also, but you can restrict it because you are the master account is the owner of everything. Is the boss. Boss can create accounts with limited authority, right? Or full authority. So that is called member account. That's not the point what I'm going to do today. I'm going to talk about cross accounting. So, but to understand cross-accounting, you need to understand this hierarchy within any AWS account. You need to understand what's the difference between root and master, and what's the difference between master and the member, right? Master account is same as root. It has all the privileges under the sun. But member accounts, for example, it's by default, it's full privileges, but you can restrict using service control policies. If somebody else has service control policy, it's actually a policy created within AWS organizations. And these control policies basically is the one who governs the permissions for a particular member account, right? That's not the topic today, but you need to understand what I have said, everything is here, you can read. And so again, go back to service control policy. Service control policies are a type of organization policy that you can use to manage permissions in your organization, right? If you're planning to do certifications, I think service control policies are everywhere, especially in the SysOps exams. It's very tough compared to all associated exams. SysOps is the most toughest exam, and there you find a lot of permission questions, and service control policies is one of those areas they heavily test. And especially at this professional level exam, they heavily go into these policies, but associate level is very easy compared to other levels like SysOps and professional. So if you are planning to do any certification, these are very important stuff to understand. You need to understand really well because the questions are pretty tough. They confuse you like hell, and they give you so many scenarios, and you have to understand pretty well the concept. Not only exam, when you're doing your project, you need to understand this if you are having a complex system. But sometimes you may not find that, but if you want to be an AWS expert or cloud expert, you need to understand these policies, these concepts, right? And SCPs offer central control over maximum available permissions for all accounts in your organization, right? And other things actually I told already. You can have a go through it. So demo one. Actually, I have 2 demos lined up, but I'm not going to redo demos. I'm going to show the demos. I'm going to do what it says is when you create an organization, if your account does not have anything already, but unfortunately my account has an organization already, this will create a master account, AWS account for you. So in my case, I have a master account already created, right? And So I can't do that step. You can do it if you are planning to, you're a new person. If you haven't done AWS organization in your account, you can try this step, right? Create a member AWS account within your organization, right? That is, again, I have done it. These are the member accounts. I show you. This is called create a member account. You can create account here. What you have to only do is you have to give a name for the account, but some email address, right? And when you are creating the account, you have to give a role. Always you have to give this role. You can see organization account access role. Don't give any other name. This is the name you have to give because it's the standard permission that you have to. I have not tried it. You can try and see with giving another name, but I am not too sure. What they say is give the same name. So that is when you are creating an account, you have to give this particular role name all the time. Right? That role name has the full access for the next level, right? And so that is, as I said, when you're creating a member account, you'll give the full access. But using service control policies, you can reduce access. But I'm not going to do that, but this is a concept, right? So that is, do a role switch. I'll do this, right? Do a role switch to organizational account with the account you have with it. If you look at this diagram, this is a master account, right? If I go to my console, this is my master account, right? This is my super admin. Crishantha is the super admin. If I show you, right, you go to IAM and you can find users here, right? Within the users, there's Crishantha. There are 2 demo accounts, but this guy is admin. You can see admin, right? So I have logged in as an admin, right? So I'm planning to move to a different account now, right? And if you go to organization again, you can see here, you can see there are multiple member accounts. I want to go into this demo account, right? For that, actually in right scenario, there's a thing called role switch here. You have to give a switch roles, right? When you're switching the role, you have to give the account ID, role, and the display name. When you are giving the role, actually you have to give organization access account, that particular role. This actually the account ID you want to shift. Actually, this is also I have done it, but which is called demo actually. This is the account which is this demo account, right? I'm not going to waste time because I don't have time. I just click this. Just look at it. It will move to that account, right? So now you're in the other account, right? So you can see the color code is different, and you're not in Crishantha account anymore. You are in the other account, which is the member account. Now, if you can go and browse certain things, go to IAM and see what they have. And so there are no users. So you must wonder, I am in a demo account without any users. How can that be possible? It is possible because you are a super admin. You can. So let's say your super admin create an account for you. He always go and look what you're doing, right? By default, unless you're restricted. So be careful, right? And so always when your boss is created, when your super admin is created, so an account for you, there's a possibility you go and see what you're doing. It's okay because he's the boss, right? And so if you had created this account by yourself and attached to this organization, I can go and always see what you're doing, what the resources are doing, what kind of a work that you are doing, right? And so you can see there are 0 users, right? But I'm in your account now. I'm not in the super admin. But you always go click this, and you can go back to Crishantha. Means you are going back to your previous account. This is called cross-account access, right? And this is why I did the AWS Organization in the first place. And you need to understand this member account concept and the master account concept, right? And not only this, you can have another member account, and from the other member account, you can access the other member account as a provided that you give privileges properly. To do this, what are the things you have to follow? The next demo will cover that. That's for this demo, and I'll go to that. It's called role switching. It's what I did called role switching, right? You would have seen that I gave a string which is called organization account role something. That is the role by default you have to give. So role switching is a method of accessing one account from another using one set of credentials. The credentials is the role, right? role switching is possible between AWS accounts, even with AWS organization. I haven't done anything with AWS organization. What I'm doing is between accounts only. If you want to do multiple organizations, you have multiple root accounts, right? So you need to sign in as IAM user. As I always said, if you want to do a role switch, you can't use the root account. Root account doesn't allow you to do that. You have to log in as an admin user. The demo 2 is a bit of a complex scenario, which actually probably you don't understand what I have given here, but what it says is there's a master account, there's a member account, right? And I have created a user in the master account, which is called demo 1. You would have seen that particular resource user. You log in as not as a master account, you log in as a demo 1, right? So this is bit restricted, but using the demo 1, you can access this master account. But only this demo 1 can access it. Not even master account can access this. So you can do such restrictions as well. Even master account can be restricted. You can so member account can only be accessed by this guy. This is a good scenario when, for example, if an auditor comes to, this is a typical questions you get in most of the exams. When an auditor comes, if you want to audit certain departments, how we are going to give access? This is the way you are to give access. You block everyone except this guy, right? And this is called typical complex level cross-account switching. And this is available through roles actually. If you look at this diagram, don't look at the top arrow, look at the down arrow, which is on the left side. You can see a role, you create a role with read-only. But the auditor, you don't give full access, you give the read-only access. And you assume roles, and which is STS. You give to access on the demo user 1 side, and you restrict this only for this demo account on the member account. So there are 2 things you have to do, right? I'll show you this how we do that and how you pay in the reference and wind up the session. And this is, I don't want to waste my time. This is the other session what I have, which is I have logged in through demo 1, right? I have logged in through demo 1, and the other session I have Crishantha, right? But I don't need both sessions, but I want to show you one thing, right? Demo 1 is there. Yeah, this is the demo 1, which is the restricted master account, which I'm trying to log in. It will not allow. You can see it will not allow. But if you go to the other one, I'll try to demo 1, which is this one. It will allow. So you can see even master, super admin can't access it. It's not the ideal, but you can do that. But this guy, a guy which has no privileges, only the read account access, he can access this particular thing. That is called restricting certain users. Even the super admin you can block on the other side, right? And you can go and see, right? And you can see this other account, which is called demo 1, right? And you can see the users, right? And this is possible through few things, right? As I said, I'll go back again. And I don't want to go into too much detail, but it might confuse you. But I'll just show you a few things, right? And what you do is you create an account, which is demo 1. You give him some permissions, right? You give read-only access. Plus, there's a thing called STS control, right? This is on the user side, and you can see it's loading. Go to JSON. You can see there's a thing called assume role. I told you. So you assume certain using STS. On the other side, which is I'll go to the demo 1 now. You do one thing. These are the only 2 things you have to do, but you have to. I don't want to go into detail. These are practical stuff, but I'll just show you, right? And you go to roles here. There are no users, but you have a role here, right? And there's a thing called, this is the role which I created for this. You created read-only, but you create a trust relationship. You mention, okay, only this account or demo 1 can access. If you look at this line, only demo 1 can access. So likewise, I mean, these are very simple thing. You can do certain conditioning. You can do certain restrictions on this line. So that is, you can see even super admin can't, right? This guy can. So he's a normal user, right? If you go back again, back to demo 1, it's a normal user. And he's just a read-only user. You can call him as just an auditor. Read-only user can access, but not the super admin. That's a strong point of this switching accounts. I want to stress these small things. And so the demo 2 is what I did now. You can read, and these all steps are given. I'm planning to write a separate blog on this. You can get all the details with all the steps. You can have a look. And the final slide, actually, I've actually exceeded the time. And this is a new feature which came recently, not recently, probably one year, I think. I also came across a few weeks ago, and which is actually a resource access manager, which is basically what it does is again the cross-account access. What it does is basically you can, if you have a VPC or some virtual private cloud in the member own account, which is the master account, you can even share your VPC, subnets, or any network level configuration to other member accounts. But you can't, the only thing is the member accounts can't do any adjustments to the network. Only the who create the network component can do the adjustments. But good thing is, if you have multiple accounts, you can even share VPs, you can share subnets, you can communicate with each other. It's a good thing. I mean, early days we use VPC peering most of the time to connect VPCs. Now with this resource access manager, you can easily, it's a separate session altogether. It takes half an hour to explain. Probably I'll do it one more session later. And so you can do that. I included this slide because it's a part of the cross-account access. So those are the few references, and thank you so much. If you have questions, you can ask.
Okay. So thank you, Crishantha, for this knowledge adding session. Thank you everyone for taking part. Have a nice day.